What if you could guarantee, like truly guarantee, that you'd never fail? It's a huge question, right? It's something that obsessed this king in a story from way back. But man, does it feel relevant today? So today we're going to dive into Leo Tolstoy's incredible parable, The Three Questions.
No, really, just think about that for a second. What if you had the perfect formula for success? A surefire way to know you'd never, ever fail at anything you tried. I mean, sounds amazing, doesn't it? Well, that exact obsession is where our whole story begins.
So, this whole thing kicks off with a king, and this king had this one all-consuming idea. He was absolutely convinced that if he could just find the answers to three key questions, just three, he'd basically be unstoppable. He would never fail again.
And here they are, the king's big three questions. First, what is the perfect time to start anything? Second, who are the right people to listen to, and who should you ignore? And third, what is the single most important thing to do? You can see what he's after, right? He's looking for the ultimate life hack, a cheat code for success.
And this guy was serious. He was so determined that he sent out a proclamation to his entire kingdom. He offered a massive reward to anyone at all, who could give him the answers. Basically, he was willing to pay a fortune for certainty.
So, as you can imagine, word gets out, and all the so-called wise men and experts from across the land, they all flock to the palace, right? They're all thinking about that big reward. And this is where the king's quest for a nice, simple answer starts to get, well, a little messy.
And the advice he got? Oh, it was all over the place. A complete mess. For the right time, you had some people saying, you need strict timetables, while others were like, no, you need a council of wise men to decide. For the right people, was it his counselors, priests, warriors? Everyone had a different answer. And the right action? Forget about it. The suggestions ranged from science to warfare to religious worship. He wanted a simple formula, and what he got was just chaos. Total contradiction.
So, at the end of it all, the king was actually more confused than when he began. The smartest people in his kingdom couldn't agree on anything. He was looking for a signal for clarity, and all he got was a wall of noise. So, yeah, he sent everyone home and gave the reward to absolutely no one.
Okay, so the king is totally frustrated with all this intellectual debate that's going nowhere, so he decides to scrap that whole approach and try something completely different. He's heard about this hermit, a man famous for his wisdom, who just lives out in the woods. And this is where the story really takes a turn. And to really commit to this, the king basically sheds his entire royal identity. He puts on simple, plain clothes, tells his bodyguards to stay behind, and goes alone. He's not approaching this guy as a powerful king demanding answers anymore. He's going as a humble seeker. So the king finds the hermit, who's just digging in his garden. He walks up and lays out his three huge life or death questions. And the hermit's response? Nothing. Silence. He doesn't even look up. He just keeps on digging. There's no big speech, no easy answer, just the sound of a spade hitting the earth. The king waits a bit, and then, feeling a little bad for the old man, he offers to take over the digging for a while. And hours go by. The sun starts to go down, the king is exhausted, he's frustrated, and he still doesn't have his answers. He's just about to throw in the towel and go home, when, out of nowhere, everything changes. Suddenly, this man comes stumbling out of the trees, and he's badly wounded, bleeding from a huge gash in his stomach. And in that instant, the king, the guy who was just moments ago completely lost in his own head with these abstract questions, he doesn't even hesitate. He just acts. He rushes over, cleans the wound, uses his own handkerchief to bandage it, and gets the man some water. He's completely in the moment, just focused on helping.
Okay, so fast forward to the next morning, the wounded man wakes up and he has this shocking confession. He tells the king, I'm your enemy. I came here to kill you. He had been hiding, waiting to ambush the king on his way home. But because the king stayed so long helping the hermit, the plan got messed up. The man was discovered by the king's guards, who wounded him. And then the final irony, the very king he came to murder is the one who saved his life.
So the king, amazingly, makes peace with his former enemy. But he's about to leave, and he's still thinking about his questions. He's like, I still don't have my answers. He feels like he's come all this way for nothing. And this sets up the big final reveal. So he goes up to the hermit one last time, and you can just feel the desperation. He's almost pleading with him. After everything that's just happened, he still feels like he's leaving empty-handed. He just wants the words, the simple formula he came here to get. And this is when the hermit finally speaks, and he drops this bombshell. He just looks at the king and says, "You have already been answered." And the king is just baffled. What is he talking about? He hasn't gotten any answers.
And then the hermit starts to connect all the dots for him. He explains that the answers weren't something that could be written down in a book or given in a lecture. The answers were woven into everything the king had just done. He didn't need to be told the answers because he had just lived them.
Okay, so let's break it down. Question 1. What's the most important time? The hermit tells him, the most important time was when you were digging those beds. Why? Because if you hadn't pitied my weakness and stayed to help, you would have left, and you would have been killed by that man. And later, the most important time was when you were caring for him. The lesson here is so powerful. The only time that matters, the only time you actually have any power, is now.
All right, question 2. Who's the most important person? Well, when you were digging, it was me, the hermit. Later, it was the wounded man. The wisdom here is just, it's so simple but so deep. The most important person is always, always the one you are with right here, right now. Because really, who knows if you'll ever have the chance to interact with anyone else?
And that brings us to the third and final question. What is the most important thing to do? And the answer flows right from the other two. It's to do good for that person who's right in front of you. Helping the hermit dig, saving the man's life. In those moments, those were the most important things in the entire world. The hermit says it all with this last line. For that purpose alone was man sent into this life.
So, in the end, Tolstoy's story just cuts through all the noise and complexity, doesn't it? It leaves us with this incredibly simple but powerful way to live. It just pulls us right back to the here and now. So, I'll leave you with the same wisdom the hermit left the king, but as a question for you to take with you. Who is the person you're with right now, and what good can you do for them?